Now, the story of the D-Day landings has been told so many times, hasn't it? In films, TV programmes, books. And now an army of volunteers are hoping to knit their way into the history books.
Why not? More than 1,000 people all over the world are crocheting different scenes from the invasion to commemorate its 80th anniversary. Our reporter John Maguire has been chatting to some of them.
We're well used to seeing wars commemorated in bronze and in stone, but not perhaps in wool and yarn. It all started with these postbox toppers, knitted or crocheted for major royal, sporting or national events. So, for a Brit living in northern France, the idea to mark 80 years since D-Day took shape.
And I thought, why don't I do a topper for my garden gate for the 80th anniversary? And then I mentioned it to someone and they said, what a great idea. And then we decided we'd do my front wall. And then it just sort of like suddenly got bigger and it suddenly went along the lines of the Bayeux tapestry and ended up as 80 metres, representing 80 years and the 80 days of the Normandy battle before they got through to Paris. So that's in a nutshell how it all started.
But she needed an army of volunteers, which, after seeing her idea online, all signed up to help. Among them, Diana and Jenny, old school friends who've reconnected in recent years and are sharing the workload on 2 panels. It's work that's taken more than 800 hours so far. This scene depicts a real soldier, Harry Kolkowitz, and his signals unit listening in to German army phone calls after landing on D-Day.
They're intercepting, they're attaching another wire that's going to be hooked up to the radio, and then Harry's listening in to try and hear what the Germans are saying.
They've been inspired by the creative challenge, but also their own family stories.
My father-in-law was in the tank corps. I picked the tank panel in memory of him. I mean, he survived the war, but obviously has now died. And, you know, it's very close to my heart.
My husband's grandfather and uncle were killed in the Australian Army in the war in Asia. So, in fact, you feel, again, we shouldn't forget. Yeah. So it's quite a good way of keeping people's memories alive.
The detail is painstaking.
In the original first panel we did was British soldiers, and we'd done about 40 of these soldiers, and we'd put them all in brown boots, and then we discovered through the historian who's with us that actually they should have all been black. So then we had to go around and change all the black boots. So a bit of a pain.
Many of the 80 scenes are derived from the war movie The Longest Day, so this project is called The Longest Yarn. Like the invasion force, the knitters come from all over the world. Robin is in Virginia in the US, and her panel is also based on a real person.
His name is Corporal Waverly Woodson. He was wounded coming into Omaha Beach, and he was one of the only all African-American battalion to come ashore early on Omaha Beach. I wanted to represent him. And I am.
Reed is an American living in Germany and chose to depict the massive logistical effort behind the Allied invasion, again influenced by a family story.
My grandfather was involved in the European theater, but he was down in the Persian Gulf. He worked with supply lines, so doing all of the ships getting loaded up felt like kind of a cool project. And so with a little more research, and suggestions from other people in the group, I've actually learned a ton of history about the event just from other people in the group.
The 80 panels will be dismantled, then reassembled and stitched together in Normandy. Tansy is hoping for more help with the logistics. The finished work will go on display in May in a large church in Carentan, the scene of a fierce battle in 1944.
So give me an idea of how long that would take to make.
Well, probably about 3 days, sort of doing it, probably 6 hours a day, just a little thing like that.
At her home in Dorset, Lynn's creating large items that will decorate the French town's shops and businesses.
I've learned so much about history and all sorts since I've been doing this. And also my grandchildren come in and they say to me, oh, Nanny, what's that? When was, and they're learning so much. a learning curve for all of us because we never want it forgotten.
In the autumn, The Longest Yarn may then come to the UK, and there's been interest from the United States. But this labour of love telling the extraordinary story of D-Day will first see the light of day, the longest day in Normandy. John Maguire, BBC News.
Good team effort.
Love it.
Global
love
team
it.
effort.
Good stuff. We'll see that as it comes to fruition in the weeks ahead.